You're watching The Experience, Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Hey everybody, and welcome to The Experience. This is Talkin Shop, and I'm Miss Jen. I missed you guys last week. We had a big signing in our store. We had Twisted here, which I know you're thinking to yourself, why didn't you just have Twisted on? But they were doing stuff. I couldn't make it happen at the same time. Their actual signing started at this exact moment last week. So, by the way, if you just ever want to know, Twisted are very lovely people. They're really cool, and all their fans are awesome. I would say they're the most together family I have ever seen. They got each other's backs, and they're super chill. And they love comic books. If you didn't know that Twisted, they have a comic book through Source Point Press, and it's about them. It's them. They're basically ghost hunters. It's called Haunted Highons. It's really cool. So you should track it down. And coming soon, Blaze Ya Dead Homie has his own title called Blaze Ya Dead Homie. And to that end, we love bringing you all the up-to-date news for creator-owned things and cool published things that you should add to your pull box or to your queue for things you want to buy. Hey, Leonard! And that's what this show is about. We're trying to point you to maybe creators you hadn't considered before, you just hadn't heard about before. So you definitely should stay tuned. We're going to talk to Brian Silverbacks today and to Fish Lee. So we're going to take a bumper break, and I'll see you for the goods. Everybody, and welcome back. We're going to start out today talking to Brian Silverbacks, my good friend, who, by the way, my favorite thing that you post are your blue steel pictures from your headshots.
I gotta do that, man. That's what I gotta do to be seen.
So which came first for you, the comic career or acting?
Man, if you were to ask my parents, the acting thing probably started when we would put April Fool's Day jokes on my mom, my brother and I. We would, mix fake blood, and we'd come up with all these elaborate things, and she would generally not like us. But so there's always been an element of wanting to entertain. Like when Jackass came out, I thought that, oh man, so I started doing stuff like that, and before the internet. So I've always had it, but I didn't know how to get there, much like comic books. Yeah. I grew up in the 90s, 80s and 90s, really appreciating comic books, but I didn't know where to go with the mild amount of skill that I had. All I knew was I could send a letter to the address inside the comic book and get a rejection letter from someone saying you're not good enough. I knew how to do that, but outside of that, I didn't know what to do. So I was just, all right, well, I guess that didn't work. So I've held both of those things off for about 20 years and waited till I'm past the age of 40 before I start trying to get things done.
So did you have a career in between? Did you go to school and get a trade?
Well, out of high school, I joined the Army, and I stayed in there for about 6 years. Started my first family. And then after that, then I was a janitor. And then after that, I was a police officer. And then it was while I was a police officer that I reintroduced myself to art in 2013. And that's when I started. So everything you see now is really developing from 2013.
I love you got a lot of world experience you can draw from when you're creating things now.
And I think for me in acting, I think I have a perspective where I've probably seen or done or have a closer relationship with some of the stuff that's being asked of me than somebody who's 20 years old or someone who's been acting since they were 13. They only really kind of know that world. And I know life, and I'm trying to bring that into what I do.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Lieutenant, I just want to say hi to people that are on, and Leonard's on. I think my first exposure to your work was maybe Loggerhead.
No, probably Metal Shark Bro.
Oh, no, that's right. Metal Shark Bro. Yes.
That was my first professional comic book cover.
I mean, your style is like instantly recognizable. I know a lot of people struggle with that, right? Like people will say something is Ditko-esque or Lee-esque or whatever, but I know it's Silverbacks when I'm looking at it. Do you have other people say that?
I do now, but for the longest time. So in 2013, I was like, I felt like I was just copying this person's style that I liked, or this type of thing that I liked. And I beat myself up just wondering, I was like, how do I find my own stuff if I'm too busy like trying to be influenced by these other things? And so finally, I was really frustrated with that, by the way, because I was jealous in a healthy way of seeing other artists that had a style that I could pick out. I know that guy's stuff. I know that girl's stuff. And I didn't feel that I had that. So I beat myself up and I beat myself up. And then finally I said, to heck with it. I'll just keep doing what I like to do and we'll see what happens. And now people such as yourself will say, oh, we can tell a Silverbacks when we see one. And that was not by design. It's just how I feel comfortable with all those influences. So I'm happy to hear that. I'm excited. It makes me filled with joy.
Oh, I feel like we have to tell the story because it's so much fun about the cover that was semi-rejected or asked to be changed.
Oh, Murder Hobo?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was trying to do any and every cover I could find. And at that time, I wasn't even initiated to what a real murder hobo was. I didn't know that was a Dungeons and Dragons term, but I had seen how well that title was received by the audience. And I liked the weirdness of what you could do. So I messaged, not Smokey, Rich Woodall. And I was like, hey man, how can I get down? And I was like, let me work with you. At the very least, let me work with you on a cover for this project. And I was like, all right, let's do Wolverine #1. He's doing like this.
Yep.
But I was like, well, what can you, and this is the title lends itself very well to sexually explicit stuff because everybody's like having sex with everybody and homosexual, heterosexual, all this stuff's going on.
Yep.
And I was like, dude, let's do something funny. So instead of Wolverine's claws holding up, I had him holding up a big, giant purple floppy thing that could have been mistaken for an adult marital aid. But it wasn't. That was the idea. And I thought it was just hilarious because it was on brand with the title. And he had a thing of beads in his other hand, adult beads. And I didn't know what the cover was going to be used for. I was like, hey, can we do this? And they said, oh, well, the cover, Miss Jen's going to do the cover, but we can't do this. And I was like, well, shit, man. So I went back to the drawing board and I drew like a staff with a pile of poop on the top of it.
That was perfect.
And they said, no, not going to do that. And I couldn't redraw the drawing. Like the drawing was the ink drawing on the piece of paper. You know, I couldn't do the paper. So everything I had to do was digital to cover up what was there or add something new. So we compromised. We ended up landing on like a brown bottle of beer, which also on brand. And then the beads were just turned into a rope. So really no explanation for the rope. But that was the cover that actually got like mainstream published. And then Smokey said that we're going to do 50 copies of the purple floppy one. And I was like, all right, let's go. You know what? It was blue. It was blue, a blue floppy one.
Yep.
But that's how that came about. And I was just excited to be, the title was gaining a lot of popularity. And at that time, I was still trying to get somewhere and attaching myself to any project that I felt had legs at any cost. Like, I'll do that for free, or hey, I'll do that for like, $5 or whatever, just trying to help get myself out there. And so that's why I picked that. And that is one of my most, I colored that cover myself.
It's gorgeous.
I don't really color too much anymore, But when I colored that one, I surprised myself. I was like, holy, this looks good.
Absolutely. And I think there might have been like a step in there that you don't know about, that like, because my connection was with Hake. And when he sent me that image, I was like, I mean, I really like this book, but I can't, as a family-friendly store, have those objects in his hands. He's like, why? What are they? I'm like, did you even look at this cover?
See, I thought by leaving the big blue floppy thing without like a terminal head piece, like some sort of mushroom tip, I thought if I left that ambiguous, that it couldn't be said that that's what it was.
Well, thanks for being willing to change it up for the home team.
Dude, I'm just happy that it exists. I was happy to be a part of it, and thank you.
Oh man. Leonard, ask a cool question. Do you have a preferred genre? Superhero, horror?
I'm going to go superhero. I'm not a big fan of that, simply because I'm not great at it, and there are other people who are. So let them do their thing. I think where my style lives is in more of like a texture, visceral, like something that feels like it's got stuff going, like texture, really. Horror, swamp stuff, like dragony stuff, like stuff that can just, and I don't have to play by anybody's rules. Like I can make up the anatomy. I don't have to figure out, well, the pectoral muscle goes into the deltoid and all this. And if you don't do it correctly, then it either looks weird and you really have to lean into the weird look, and you got like some Bill Sienkiewicz stuff going on, or you have to be like super Jim Lee and have everything just perfectly sculpted where it needs to go. Mm-hmm. And I am somewhere in between those two extremes. So I have found that doing horror stuff, I'm not a super horror fan myself, but I do see the appeal of my style fitting very well with blood and guts and scariness and lots of black ink on the page.
Yeah, I think that if I was thinking, like if you guys were thinking about what books are out there right now that you can hunt down, like Brian has got this cool universe that's Kara Prime, and that one is anthropomorphic in nature. So think the biggest, baddest creatures that are made into like I could kick your butt characters, and I love all of those.
Well, I appreciate it. You've been, Jen, I know that you have a super duper amount of people that you support, and I am happy to be on the list because you go above and beyond just trying to expose as many people that it's just magical how much effort you put into it, and how little you can physically get back. Like I could never repay you for the cool stuff that you've done. So it's just really cool to see how much you do for other people.
Well, but think about it from my point of view. I'm just a big fan of comic books in general. So for me, even though I've been in the industry for 30 years, I still see people like you as being like my heroes. So that I get to have any kind of FaceTime with you and to like, get into your head a little bit about what your creative process is and what you're coming up with next. All those things, that's like inside, I'm fangirling out hardcore. Gotta be professional, Miss Jen, on the outside. So yeah, I mean, I get to live out a dream of saying I like this stuff, and then you guys should like this stuff, so we can, I can have my own giant clubhouse of people who like the same things I like.
I promise you, it is very much appreciated, and we all love you for it.
I love it. All right, Leonard says Cthulhu over Captain America.
Yes, you know what? I have yet to officially draw a Cthulhu, and I'm working. Like I have never drawn Cthulhu ever, and I think that when I do, it'll be something pretty badass, or pretty awesome. Yep. But I want to make sure that I do it correctly. I want to make sure that I want to put thought into it. I don't want it to be on a whim.
That sounds like, I mean, for that character especially, there's so many people that are like uber fans of it.
Yeah.
Like if it's going to be your first time with that character, you gotta like get it all focused in.
Yeah, I need to hit a home run.
That's right. All right. David says, what's something you've drawn or created recently that you got really excited about?
All
Good
right.
segue.
Like, so this leads us into what Jen really wants to talk about. So, dude, if two things happened last week.
Mhm.
I fell in love twice. I fell in love with using watercolor, and I fell in love with Aniko, which is a female recording artist, and I found her like trying to post those videos, and her music is just it's so awesome. So those two things happened last week.
While you're creating now, is that some
Ma'am?
of your favorite music?
Oh, she is on the playlist of things that I listen to when I do stuff. But so I found I'm gonna get, before I go into it, I'm gonna tell you the what got me there.
Okay.
I have grown frustrated with the lack of getting where I think I can be in comic book cover art. I don't do the inside, so I'm already limiting myself to what work I can find, and I don't need to go into the whole Crimea River story, but so I'm not getting where I want to be. I think that my stuff would look good on a Swamp Thing cover. I think my stuff would look good on doing a number of covers. It doesn't have to be, the mainstream dudes. I want some off-brand stuff I'd like to have fun with. And that isn't happening. And I don't know what else I can do to get there. But it's frustrating because that for me was my ceiling, and that was my next rung on the ladder to success. Is I need to do one of those, and I just got tired of spinning my wheels. So I was like, you know what? And I'm a very controlling person. I like when I draw my lines, you'll see that all the lines connect, all the lines start somewhere and go somewhere, and everything has its place.
Right.
Everything at home, dress right dress. I'm always early. Everything has structure. But watercolor doesn't have structure. And I need to loosen myself up as a human being. I want to learn how to relax properly and just to to heck with it. Just turn it down a little bit. So I've said maybe what I'll do is I'll start doing watercolor and I'll do it in a way that I don't have full control. It does what it wants to do, and I have to be okay with it. And maybe if I do that enough, I'll feel like it'll bleed into the rest of my life.
Okay, so the story from my point of view was I did see your frustration, and I didn't understand why you weren't getting those jobs on my side too. I was like, when he's putting himself out there, he's showing really great stuff, especially when you're doing your big multiple character pieces and just knocking it all out of the park. And I kept on thinking, what is going on that he's not getting noticed, because you were doing all the right things, putting yourself out there. And then the next thing I knew, and you were expressing your frustration, right? The next thing I know, there's this masterpiece of an image that you post that's not in any kind of, I was like, what just happened? Yeah. It's just like, I don't know if you guys see the face in this, but it's all kinds of amazing.
So I watched for about a month. I watched abstract watercolor videos on YouTube. I watched tutorials, techniques. I was trying to get as much information as I could as to how to abstractly create with using the watercolor medium. Watching. I ordered all my supplies. I didn't just go to Kmart and buy who goes to Kmart? I didn't go to Walmart and buy like the little thing with all the swirlies. I ordered some real stuff, and then it sat there because I was scared that if I tried it and I didn't either have fun or I didn't enjoy what it looked like, then I would feel like I failed myself. And I did. So I put it off. I had all of the stuff here for about 2 weeks, and I didn't do anything because it's the Schrodinger's box of, I don't know if I'm any good, but the second I put paint on paper, we'll see.
Yep. And
so I was like, you know what? To heck with this F words. I'm gonna try it. So that's what I did. This is my very first thing that I did.
It's like magic happened on the page.
And
nothing about that looks accidental. You know what I'm saying?
But some of it was on purpose. And I don't know.
Oh, Mr. Fish is on.
Thank you, Mr. Fish. But this is one that I liked the best though so far.
It is gorgeous. And I saw one, I don't know that you had posted up individually, or at least I missed it, the one that has the skulls on it.
Oh, that was today's post. I am the least proud of that one.
Really?
Yes. First off, somebody asked me already, like someone's already asked, hey, can I commission a horror piece from you? And I said, I don't know how to theme anything. Like I really just go in there and I put the paper down and I'm like, all right, well, what are we going to do? So I don't know how that can be commissioned. So the only thing I can think of is that maybe you can pick like a mood or you can pick like some color stuff, but I can't be restricted. Like I'm not going to go into this and say, oh, well, I want a girl and she's doing this and I need some of this shit. And I'm like, that's not how it's going to work for me. And that's not because I think I'm some big deal, but then that takes away what these are for me. Then I'm starting to construct things.
These are way more organic, I think, than being able to give something exact. You could, like, if someone said I wanted a mood and tone, give me something like dark and ominous.
If I were to commission, and so the skull thing, boiling it back to what you said, the skull thing was me trying to figure out what maybe a small one would look like. And I was unhappy. I was like, oh, I don't like that. Because I made the skull very too simple. Like, if I did it again, I would use my handy app and rotate the skull as reference and come up with a better reference than just straight on, looking like a Halloween print you get at Party City.
So how much smaller is it?
Here, let me get it for you real quick. It's 8 by 10.
Show and tell.
Because I have all of them right here. So if you look at this, ow, shit. So here it is. But you see how both of those skulls are face on? That feels very elementary, like an 8th grader did it.
No.
So I tried to come back and I put like a 3/4 angle skull right here, kind of looking up. And then I did the same thing with a little red skull, like the 2 eyes and the nose and then the jaw. Like I just really needed to. The cartoon skull doing this, it feels elementary.
You know what it looks like to me? This is my gut reaction for that piece. Is that it looks like a dried riverbed that someone like crushed those images into the dried riverbed, like they just have to.
Oh yeah.
Come out.
Yeah.
I don't know what condition that would actually happen in real life, but that's what it makes me think of.
So I had somebody buy, like they said they were going to buy the first 2 and then they flaked out. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks. That kind of took the steam out. But here's the thing. So I leaned into the watercolor and I enjoyed every minute of putting the watercolor on the paper. Mm-hmm. And when I posted these things online, the response that I got was like, holy shit, Brian, you may be doing the right thing here. This may be your thing. And so that I was reinvigorated. Oh, yeah, let's go get it. And another thing I noticed is there's a completely different demographic of people that like this work, mm-hmm. that supported me, but never really liked comic book stuff. And so I could never get their full financial support or like organic shares and stuff like that on social media. They liked Brian, but they don't really give a stuff about what he's doing. It's not for them. Right. But these seem to cross over to that audience of ones that like regular people that don't even like comic books that follow me are like, hey, I want one of those. And that I'm like, oh, dude, this is awesome. But we're still in the first week.
Oh yeah. So
I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but pretty soon there's going to be a Kickstarter for a book that says I Paint Stuff, Volume 1 by Brian Silverbacks.
So is that so? Okay, so I think you've got a Kickstarter now.
Yeah, for this.
And that, okay, so if you like the cool, like awesome original style, which there's like, this is the stuff I'm telling you guys about. Like, I don't understand how Brian doesn't have work with the big guys, because it doesn't make any sense to me if they see that stuff. So if you want to have an easy grab at all of like examples of his amazing style pre-renaissance of watercoloring, back this awesome thing.
Yeah, and so like for the like my prints when I go to shows are $20 a piece, like for a print. This book you get like 78 of my images for a print and a half. So for $30 you get this 80-page thing just full of all kinds of stuff that you may not have seen before, or you can deconstruct it. If you're an artist, you can look at it and you can say, oh, I see what he did here. And there's stuff in there from like 2015, like back before I was like remotely good. But I put it in there. I put it in there so that we can see you don't start good. You know, you don't start already knowing everything. So I put a couple of those in there to show that growth happens. Not that I'm super proud of the work, but if anybody looks at the book and says, oh, well, he's, of course he put an art book out, he's good. But no, look at this stuff inside, man. You start here. So I included everything.
Brilliant. All right, we got just like a minute to tie it up, but I wanted to give you a chance. Like, we've got the Kickstarter link up. So if you guys want to follow the Kickstarter link and get after that, please do.
It.
But if somebody that's watching or someone that watches it later on says, I got to have, like that fool that passed on those first 2 created ever watercolors by Brian Silverbacks who jumped out, if they're available, how do they get in touch with you if they want to secure those things?
Hopefully they have a Facebook page, because I have a folder on my Facebook that says watercolor stuff. And in that folder, the size of the watercolors, 9x12, 8x10, blah, 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 is listed. And then if it's sold, it'll have the word sold above it. But I will not have prices on there. But I can promise you, like, the prices for this month of May are going to probably be on the lower end of what I think, because I'm trying to get the ball rolling. And if you don't get them now, like, that shit ain't going backwards. So it's going to keep going to the top.
Exactly. And is Facebook where you're the most active? Because that's where I follow
Facebook
you.
And Instagram.
I'm an old person.
I'm an I do on Instagram. On Instagram, I post videos of most of the progress videos of the paintings, and I post my daily sketch. I do a drawing a day, and I post those videos, those time-lapse videos on Instagram.
About what
Brian,
time?
At Brian Silverbacks on both of them.
What time of the day do you do those?
Whenever I want.
Okay. So they're not a time thing. They're like every day at 5 o'clock.
No. Like every day before the end of the day, like I commit to drawing one drawing every single day.
Yeah, that's the art life right there. All right, everybody. If you want to keep in touch with Brian, make sure to follow him on Instagram or on Facebook. Both are equally as awesome. But if you want some of that live stuff, definitely do the Instagram route. Get in touch with him for some of the original art. Back his Kickstarter. And he's multi-talented. So you may actually see him on a TV show as a character and be like, dude, is that police officer the person that I know and own their art of?
I just did a music video with Rich Homie Quan. So that was fun and exciting.
Multi-talented. Thank you so much, Brian. I really
thank you, Miss Jen, for everything. Thank you to the experience, all you guys.
Yeah, as much as we can help, we will do that.
I appreciate it. Continue to be great people.
And continue to throw caution to the wind and try new things, because how would we have known that you were an amazing watercolorist?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought I might like it, so you might like it too.
That's right. All right, everybody, stick around. We get to also, then you saw Mr. Fish jump on. Fish Lee's going to be on next. See you in a sec.
You know how when you go to Comic-Con, after Comic-Con, you go to the hotel bar, and there's a whole bunch of people playing music and dancing, and you've got Pikachu and Lara Croft Tomb Raider doing the cha-cha slide just down from Deadpool and Batman and Wonder Woman? That's every Saturday night over on the Experience Twitch channel. Join Taji Beats for the EXP Dance Party, exclusively on Twitch, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Did you know that every Experience show, including some exclusive content, streams on Twitch? Check it out, twitch.tv/the_EXP. Or just scan that QR code.
Welcome back. This is Talkin Shop. I'm Miss Jen, and you're watching us here on The Experience. We would sure love it if you hit that subscribe button or ring that bell for notifications or give us thumbs ups and hearts. It really makes us aware of if we're doing well or if we're not doing well. I guess give thumbs down if you don't like us. That would be bad, but hopefully we're not doing that bad of a job. We're 2+ years into doing this stuff, raising up voices in the comic book industry, creating either for publishers and going into comic shops or doing independent stuff. And my goal, I don't know if it's their goal, my goal is always to get these indie guys, super indie guys, noticed by whatever companies they'd like to be noticed by. So if they have a dream of working for the big two, or if they want to work for Aftershock or Scout or whoever, then they get their notice and get those jobs if they want them. All right, we're going to get to talk to Fishley.
What is up? Good to see you.
Mr. Fish.
Everybody's ever loving Uncle Fish. How you doing?
Doing good. Oh, I love everything in your background.
Oh, yeah. It's I started a wall at our last house of all the books that I worked on, and very quickly I ran out of room. So now I have to shuffle between my favorite ones and rotate it around as my backdrop, because now, like, in the last 5 years, I just finished my 66th book, fixing to start on 67 tomorrow.
Underachieving. When did you start? What was the first year of the first book?
I launched T-Man and Hyperstrike, my own personal book, on Kickstarter. It came out in like February of 2018 about a superhero team where he's a living embodiment of Tourette syndrome and she has ADHD, because I grew up with both of those things. And so it was designed specifically at inspiring all the kids in the world with Tourette's and ADHD and stuff to find the hero in themselves and to focus on the things that make us awesome and not the things that people are going to beat us down about. And like, if my brain didn't work the way it does, I wouldn't be able to put out so many books. I wouldn't work so fast. I wouldn't be able to work in this high-speed, controlled chaos. Listening to Brian talk about his art just cracked me up, because, like, I'm controlled chaos at best. I'm very, very fast. I put out an entire book in 12 days one time. But, like, my lines don't always necessarily connect, and like, you know, my flatter gets mad because all the little rivets don't quite connect at the end, and you know, so she's got to fill in the gaps. But it also makes me super creative, and I get cool ideas. Like the book I'm launching right now, The Mighty Caw, the Cro-Magnon. I had that idea like, I think 36 days ago now. I woke up from a nap. My buddy Stephen Butler was sending me stuff of the Barbarian stuff that he's been working on, and like old cartoons and stuff that we grew up with. I lay down for a nap, and all of a sudden this vision pops in my head, and the pun of Cro-Magnon, and I jumped out, drew it down. Next day I had 23 books outlined, and a month later the book's finished. It's getting printed. The Kickstarter's about to launch.
Oh, okay, so I need to know your origin story then. So there's clearly something that is within you that was drawn to the comic book form. Did you start in comic books, or was there other stuff that you started with before?
I wanted to, ever since, like, I want to say it was a Saturday morning in like 1985, and it was the first episode of Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, and they're saving this comic book artist who's being haunted by his hero, like the Blue Scarab. That's the first time I realized you could actually make a living drawing this stuff, and like it could be your day job, and like grown-ups could do this. I don't have to be a computer programmer like my dad. And as Oh, forget about it. I was over and done with. Had no question that's what I was going to do when I got out of high school. I, moved to Mississippi and met some comic book artists, and things looked like it was going to take off, and then it fell apart. And, and then just didn't happen. And it was so much harder back then. Like trying to do it by yourself back then was almost impossible. Like I remember talking to the local newspaper printers. I'd have to get 10 grand together to do like a 5,000 print run of a short black and white comic. And as a single man, like who just had 2 kids, I couldn't get 10 grand to save my life. And we didn't have, digital printers that could print 1 or 5,000 copies. And we didn't have internet so you could connect with people around the world. There was no social media. There was none of this. So
letters.
Yeah, exactly. And like in high school, I sent out 65 packages every month to every editor that I could get a name for and an address for, from DC down to like, I think Black Skull Publications or something was like the lowest one I could find an address for. Excuse me. 65 packages every month. And I had such a huge stack of rejection letters, telling me all the reasons that I suck. And just kept going until I moved out and had to start paying for postage myself, and I couldn't use my parents' postage machine at their accounting office anymore. And then I was like, okay, that's a little bit expensive, for a single man trying to pay the rent. And so I went to college. I studied 3D animation and design. I came really close to a lot of video game jobs and stuff, but they don't tell you in college, that every year when those jobs open up, 5,000 people apply for those jobs, and you got to stand out among 5,000 people. So it doesn't matter how good you are. It matters how good your demo tape is. And my ADD brain was a little bit scattered in college. So my demo reel was a little bit scattered. Lots of cool pieces, no finished product. If I'd finished one of those things, I would be doing video games right now instead.
And my recollection about working in the video game industry was that you get hired onto a project. That didn't mean you worked for that company. When the game was over, so was your tenure there. You had to apply again. You
got to like earn it and get back in there again. And it's tough, man. It's a meat grinder. But I ended up having a nice little career in graphic design and doing all kinds of stuff, from painting murals to, like, at one point I sculpted 45 polar bears for Dixie Cafe when they changed their bars over to soda fountains. And they wanted this really cool polar bear that kids would want to climb on and take pictures on. So I made it, 45 of these things, fiberglass, painted them, the whole 9 yards. We installed them. A kid climbed on them, fell, chipped his tooth, and they ripped them all out.
Oh no.
It was hilarious.
Somewhere there's a warehouse that has a bunch of these in it.
Oh, there's a couple in front yard somewhere. I know. I wanted one in my front yard, but my ex-wife said they'd be tacky. It was too big to fit in the house. But yeah, I did lots of things. And then, unfortunately, I got crippled by my Tourette syndrome, and I spent like 15 years in a wheelchair. Most days I couldn't walk, talk, or see. I just shook so constantly. Like my eyes would be clamped shut. My jaw would be clamped shut. It was brutal. And for a long time there, the only thing I could do would be maybe get one eye open and work one thumb. But if I could work one thumb, then I could get my phone and I could talk to people online. So I became an online advocate for people with Tourette syndrome. And I started like counseling new parents when their kids would get diagnosed, and they're, the world's coming to an end and my kid's never going to get married or have kids or have a job. I'm like, no, listen, your kid's going to be fine. They might be a little ticky, but they're going to be really awesome. And I like to tell people it's just our body's burning off all the extra awesomeness. And that evolved.
Like a superhero to a lot of parents, I bet, because it can be scary if you don't know what's coming, right?
It's really scary. And if you only see like the worst case scenario, it can seem really bad. And if you saw me in person at the time, it could be very scary to think that's what my kid's going to end up like. But I've got a very severe case. And there's, it's not as common for adults to keep getting as worse as I do. There's a lot of us. We're not non-existent, but we're not the majority. And it is what it is. I've got a lot of good things going for me, and I've got wonderful kids and family and a beautiful new wife and a beautiful new house. And I'm a blessed man. I'm lucky. It doesn't matter if I can walk every single day or if I can talk every single day. I'm blessed. And as I got a little bit better handle on the things I needed to do to live with my Tourette's and not fight against it, and got some better mixes of medications and started to exercise, and things started to get a little easier. I'm sorry, allergies are killing me. I apologize.
That time of year.
As I started to get a better handle on things, I got to where I could do a little bit of work again. And I started trying to find work at local t-shirt shops or, graphic shops or advertising agencies, but nobody wanted to take a chance on a crippled artist that may not be able to drive into work today, may not be able to speak today. And I can't blame them. So I had to build a freelance career from scratch again, but this time it's a brand new world, and the internet has connected me to all kinds of people that like comics and were interested in that stuff, so what started with a commission here or there. And then I realized you could do comics on Kickstarter. So I ran my own and just barely squeaked by. I thought I could just post it on Kickstarter and sit back and wait for it to go viral. Turns out that's not how it works. You got to like pitch it and advertise it, get the word out, and do shows like this and be, hey, it's your Uncle Fish. Glad to see you. And I didn't know that at the time, but we squeaked by. It worked. And then after that, next thing you know, people are asking me to illustrate their books, and then I'm too busy to do anything else. And then I'm working full time, drawing books and knocking them out, lickety split, worked all through COVID, ended up buying this house because I make enough income that we could get a nicer house and afford to pay for it, because I draw comic books all day. I make a living drawing muscle men in their underwear beating each other up. And that's the freaking dream.
So it sounds like the part of one of your successes is that you are a very quick creator. Do you think that because of that speed, and people probably share that knowledge, do you think that that's the success, is just like people say, I need someone who can actually give me a finished product in a reasonable amount of time, and not say they're going to give me a reasonable product and then it shows up 10th than ever?
My speed tends to scare new clients, and it tends to scare off some potential clients, because when they hear the kind of numbers like, this is how many pages I tend to put out a day, they're like, nah, that's BS. And, there's no way. And then when they do give me a job and the penciled pages just start coming bam all day, it kind of scares them sometimes. And I'm like, I try and prepare them, that I'm not a 1 page a week kind of guy. Like, this is my full-time job. I'm not working at the factory all day and then coming home and go to soccer practice and cook dinner and then try and work on a page in the evenings. This is what I do all day. And I tend to work like 12 to 16 hour days. So they just keep coming. It can be overwhelming. The thing that really has cemented me with my clients is my work ethic and my dedication to getting it right. Because like the first little 8-page story that my buddy Eric Bennett hired me on, it was his character Steel Wolf and a couple other guys' characters like 5-Star from FSK, and who's Tony Clapper's character. I've been illustrating his book too. And I forgot the little belts on the side of 5-Star. On every panel in all 8 pages, I forgot to put his little belt on. And Eric was like, man, don't worry about it. The pages are done. It looks great. Tony will be all right. And I was like, no, it was in the reference material that you gave me. I'm going back and changing all 8 pages, and I fixed every panel on all 8 pages. And that one action alone cemented, my clientele with everybody that was involved in that project. And they've all been my regular clients ever since, because they know they can count on me to do it right. And if I make a mistake, I'll go back and fix it. And they've also learned that they can trust me. Like one of my clients, Roy, I've done so many books for him. He kept my kids fed through COVID with Sentinel's books. And like he knows he can trust me and be like, okay, detailed script, 4 pages of action, bad guys victorious at the end. And I can just have fun for 4 pages because he knows I'm going to give it my all and he knows I'm going to do a good job and he can trust me. He likes to say it's being lazy, but he couldn't do that with just anybody. You know, you couldn't just trust anybody to have fun like that. And, you know, I absolutely love working with him because like I can come to him with ideas and be like, okay, this is what you got in the script, but what if we did this? And, you know, he'll either be like, sure, here's some more money for 2 more pages, or he'll be like, nah, let's leave it as is. And it's cut and dry, straight and simple, no ifs, ands, or buts. I love it. I love working with him.
Amazing. So your art that you're doing, are you primarily pencils or do you do inks also? Do you do lettering?
I am the one-stop shop. You hand me a script, I hand you a finished book, formatted, ready to go to print. Like I build my pages on the template for the printer that you're going to use, so they're the right size, because I've worked parts of the job before, like I've colored or inked or penciled, and like nothing bugs me more than trying to color a page that was designed on one template and now there's like little hairs that don't match. You know, either you're going to have a little bit of white down the sides of the page at the printer that they decided to use, or you're going to crop off the top and some of the lettering is going to get, neither one of those work. So I draw in the edges and make it work. But so I design it straight on the template that you're going to use, figure out which printer you're going with. That's what we design it for. And I do the whole 9 yards. I only learned to do this stuff out of necessity growing up because I couldn't find anybody that inked. I did not know anybody that could color. You know, we didn't have digital coloring when I was a kid. So like I had to learn to do this stuff with watercolors and markers and things like that to get good at doing it. I got so good at grayscale because my dream was to work in indie comics. Like that's where I wanted to be, because that's where the cool weird stuff happens. That's where like the Ninja Turtles come out and Grendel and, you know, Judge Dredd and all that. Like I wanted to work in the black and white comics. So I learned grayscale so well. And now all the independent comics are color. And I had to like teach myself a whole new theory of how to work and how to do stuff. But, you know, times change and you got to change with it or get left behind.
All right, I've got a question for you. I think I know the answer to this. Do you have a secret stash of Zipatone?
No, I have never been able to get my hands on any actual real Zipatone. I would have killed for that. Like in high school, college days. I mean, I literally would have hurt somebody to get some. But I've never been able to get my hands on any of it. And occasionally I'll see friends online like, oh, I just got this stash off eBay, you know, that somebody had sitting in the back of their office or something. Oh, I'm so jealous.
It's magical stuff.
I mean, I still fake the effects and use the effects like in Clip Studio, and I make my own patterns and stuff. I like the effects. I like the way that stuff works, but yeah, I mean, my true love is grayscale. That's why my first book, T-Man and Hyperstrike, was grayscale. And just because I love it with a passion. I would have loved to have done Green Zone in grayscale, but the fact of the matter is when people walk up to the table and they flip through it, like there's a lot of people that are just going to keep walking if it's grayscale, no matter how much I love it. And I want to sell books. So I did a color.
I think that probably that there is going to be a resurgence in a love of a bygone era of the, you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or anybody else that put out a black and white book in the 90s, that was the way to go. That's what marked it as being like, this is cutting edge cool.
Man. If somebody's doing it right, I'm all about it and I'm all up in it and getting it and buying it, no matter how they're doing it. If they're doing their own cross hatching, if it's Ziptone, Jeff McCumsey did a book that I just absolutely loved that was a combination of like digital grayscale and then layers of Ziptone and stuff over that. And it was such a cool combination that I hadn't thought of before, of like mixing the two together. And I loved it. It just spurred my imagination in so many new directions.
So you're mentioning cool other things that have inspired you. Can you think of any other, like you've been at a convention and gone to flip through someone's work and you're like, I'm taking that idea home.
Man, I can't watch a TV show. I can't watch the news without getting a new idea of like, oh, well, what if that happened here? Like my book Green Zone from Freestyle Comics, it takes place in a world where it's illegal to have superpowers. And so you've got all these mutant cops trying to earn their citizenship. And so like anytime like a news report comes on, I'm like, ooh, what if that happened to Virgil? Because he's an 8-foot tall lizard monster. And like suddenly the dynamics are very different. And what if he pulled over somebody that could shoot fireballs? And suddenly new ideas are coming out. My news story that launches May 16th on Kickstarter, The Mighty Caw, the Cro-Magnon, is this ridiculously amazing, bird barbarian. And, he's from this other planet where all the species evolved from birds. And, the crows are the most de-evolved of them all. And, they're kept as slaves, or he spent his whole life fighting in the arena. And now he's been captured by slavers and he's being taken off planet. And oh, it is so much fun to write. It is like Flash Gordon mixed with Conan. It's got little flavorings of He-Man and Thundercats and all the stuff that I loved as a kid thrown in there. And it's just so much fun to write because there's just monsters coming out of here and evil scientific wizards coming out of here and clone armies and robots. And it's just so much fun. And there's always a sexy princess to save and something to slaughter. And, and he just gets to be this mighty badass and scream, "Call falls to no man." And it's just so much fun. I am having such a ball. And the exciting thing to me about it is like I got the book done, not counting like finishing somebody else's book in the process, like 2 weeks I got this book done. I could knock one of these out a month if it wasn't for the whole have to set up a Kickstarter and run a Kickstarter thing. I could knock out 12 a year, no problem. I just started running a Patreon too, because I'd like to kind of try and move over to a subscription service if I can, where it's like you sign up for a monthly fee, I can just make books and I ship them to you. And if I didn't have to run a Kickstarter every time we were going to do one book like this, I could get so many more books done.
I get kind of like a subscription service in that way that you just like say, I want all the stuff you make. This is a flat fee per month and stuff's going to come to my door. And I know I like your stuff, so I'm not going to miss anything. Yeah.
And, and there, I put in some different tiers. I might adjust the tiers a little bit, depending on, reply. But like, if you just want to be able to keep up with the story, there's a real cheap tier where you can get like a black and white PDF and you can follow along. And then in a month or two, that book will be released in color, but you can keep up with the story, and then you can get the color and then you can get the color prints. And then if you're the guy that wants to get all of the variant covers and you back those top tiers on Kickstarter anyway, then there's a tier where you get all of the covers, the posters, and a commission every month from me. So like, if you're that guy, there's a couple of those. There's not a lot because I don't want to get stuck trying to do 32 commissions in a month because everybody backed that tier, or trying to do 32 pages for people that are using it to get a page a month out of me. So, I limited that one, but it's there if you want it. And then you could just get the book. And I'm hoping I can figure out a balance where that would work well because, it would just be so much easier for me to be able to relax and know, okay, there's 20, 80, 100, 200, 300, whatever number of people that want this book. I can just make books. I can get them to you. I don't have to worry about the Kickstarter part because like just setting up the Kickstarter kept me from sleeping for a week. Like making books works in my brain really well. Making detailed, organized lists of things in, reward tiers cuts across the grain of my OCD and stresses me out real bad. And so like I didn't sleep for a week and that was kind of rough. But if we could cut that part out, man, I'd be sitting pretty.
I think kind of like right now, if someone wanted to have a career in just like helping people set up Kickstarters, just like information, I'll put all the stuff in there and I'll make sure it gets new information every day or whatever.
Oh man, that that would be worth a percentage to me to not have to fool with that part, because it stresses me out. That's one of the things that I really liked about, like, that's why I signed up with Freestyle Comics when I did Green Zone, because that part stresses me out. So they got people over there that will set up the Kickstarter and stuff, and that will fulfill the packages, and I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But there's also a lot of people there publishing books, and there's a lot of books in line, and one hiccup here can cause, everything to slow down. And, which is one of the best, it's got its pluses and minuses, and just like anything does. So I'm going out of my comfort zone to do Caw all by myself, and I'm just going to have Kablam fulfill it. And so they've already got the proof copies printed, and she sent me pictures of it. I'm super excited. I can't wait to have them in my hot little hands. So, on the 16th, when it launches, you can back it. The book's done. It's already at the printers. I'm just waiting for the check to finish the order and know how many to send to who. And it's going to be out. I'm really excited about it. And then it's going to be on to the next one, which I'm probably going to have finished before the Kickstarter's over.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so for Kickstarters, is there like a standard length of time, or you set it for what you want?
It's a fairly short one. I think it's like 2.5 weeks. It's from May 16th to June 2nd. I was worried about having enough time to get it okayed by Kickstarter, because my Green Zone Kickstarters took like 1.5 weeks to get approved. So I set it a little bit later, and then I got an instant approval, which
you can do it now.
Yeah. But so that was frustrating. But anyway, so I'm sticking to the time that I set, but it's ready to go live at any minute. But I'm gonna stick to the 16th. My friend Lori, my editor Lori Foster from Unlikely Hero Studios, she's had such good luck, like just cutting out that dull space in the middle, like that dull 2 weeks and a 30-day one where it just drops, and just cut it down to 2 weeks, and she's gotten much better results and still hits the same kind of goals. And so we tried that with the first 2 Green Zone ones, and it worked fine. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to print a bunch of extras so that I've got, stuff to take to cons, because I tend to sell at cons pretty well,
Perfect.
Not like an Henri Contman or something. Not that tier, but I do pretty good.
Henri.
Man, I've been talking to him. I want to go just to help him at one show, just to apprentice at his feet and watch how he does this. Because, man, I want to get to where he is.
For selling independent books live. There's like, he should just put a
that's a master class I would pay for right there. Like, yeah, absolutely.
He gets to be. He's going to be at my booth for Comic Palooza this year, where he's going to be the guest of the con for our booth. So I'll get to see it up close and personal. All right, where is the right place for people to follow or connect with you if they want to say? I know the Kickstarter's not starting right now. If they want to get your past stuff, they want to get after that.
If you want to get the first issue of Green Zone is up for sale at FSK Now, FSKNOW.com. We'll take you to their store. The second and third issues are about to go to print and get shipped out right now from the last Kickstarter. And after they're shipped out, they'll go for sale on the website. Everywhere else, I'm Mr. Fish Comics, MrFishComics.com, Mr. Fish Comics on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. I'm really active on most of those. I'm on Twitter, but I never get any traction on Twitter. So I spend most of my time focusing on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. And you can go to Go Mr. Fish, GoMrFish.com, and that'll take you right to the Kickstarter to sign up for the pre-launch page. And it's even Mr. Fish Comics on the Patreon if you want to go check that out. So
there you go.
Keep it nice and simple.
I want to thank you so much. This has been awesome. I hope we
absolutely. It's always fun.
People that maybe not have ever heard of you before might be new giant fans. And everybody, do stick around. We got something coming up right after this on the experience. Thank you so much for being here for Talkin Shop. And remember to hit subscribe so you don't miss a show. See you guys later. Thanks, Mr. Fish.
Absolutely.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.
Bye.